Hi you guys, Rachel Kirkland here, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for another YouTube question and answer video this week. If you're new to the channel, I always say just welcome, and please feel free to subscribe, like, share, and keep this circulating, building our community and growing a sense of understanding of our non-physical connections. If you're not new to the channel but you haven't sent in a question yet, also I would love to hear from you, hear what you would like me to discuss. You can send in your questions to my website, which is themodernshaman.net. You can go to that last page and there's a contact form and just put it in there that this is a question for the YouTube. All other inquiries or just interest in what I'm about, sessions with me, workshops with me, my tour dates and traveling times, that's also all on the website. It's a great hub of information. If you've never been there, you should go there so that you have a sense of connecting and kind of finding out what's available to you if this is truly something that you resonate with. Again, it's just themodernshaman.net. Okay, so here's the question that was sent in for this week. She says, Hi team. I have seen Rachel a few times and have even gotten my mother to see her. She has been truly phenomenal. She's taught me so much. My question is, I'm wondering what causes a chakra to be inversed. It would really help me to understand what's happening to me during my healing journey. Thank you so much. Okay, so when we have problems with our chakras or things that are going on with the chakras, great question. I feel like a lot of people will really connect and resonate because we all have our chakras in active energy bodies. And so understanding kind of more the phenomenon on what happens to them and how we can clear them and how they can get kind of damaged or shifted or manipulated is really helpful. So awesome question to begin with. And I do feel like it will help your healing journey, as you said. First thing I want to say, if you haven't already checked out my video on chakras, I did that one a couple years back that just goes through the traditional 7 chakras. I would suggest that you watch that, and I'll connect it to the end of this video. So I'll link it on there and maybe it will just autoplay for you. But I would suggest that you watch that and just understand kind of the basics of what each energetic organ targets and helps to heal and deals with in terms of emotional issues, psychological growth, spiritual growth, all of those components I talk about in that video. So I think I'm going to go through with your question first and talk about some common ways that as a healer I see a lot of things damaged and affected in the chakras, okay? You mentioned inversed, okay, when a chakra gets inversed. Now remember, chakras are spinning wheels, right? That's what the Sanskrit word means for chakra. And so they're similar to an opening flower, and they spin when they are in full bloom or full openness and clarity. But things can happen in our lives that feel like they malnourish them, block them, siphon them off, cut them or get tears in them, invert them, things like this. So the most common one I will say that I see with chakras and these energetic organs is that they are closed off or blocked, all right? So it's similar to a valve. This is opening up. Sometimes the valve gets one little area of it that is either siphoned off, similar to the opening of a balloon, right? If you've ever blown up a balloon, there's a little valve that you blow up the balloon through. And if you siphon it, you kind of pull the edges of the balloon tight and the air constricts. So sometimes it makes that hee noise, or it's lessening out the flow of energy, okay? And oftentimes this happens. We get a sense of blockage to the chakra, and these come from traumas in this life or another. Now, sometimes we unconsciously block or siphon off our chakras. So we've had a detrimental experience and we're like, I never want to have that experience again. This is very common, and I see this a lot with clients. They emotionally shut that part off. This is also if we go into like psychoanalysis or things like this, people will say, oh, you've created a wall, or you're things, wording that sounds like this, like they've shut things off. This is essentially the shutting off of energetic flow to that chakra or that energetic organ. So for instance, if it's your heart chakra, if you've had a particularly detrimental relationship or a hard upbringing as a child, you may shut off a part of you to receiving a certain type of love that feels like it causes trauma response in you. And we do this just out of self-safety. A lot of times we don't even realize that we're doing it. So we have to be very conscious of our own sense of evolution and self-process when we look at our energetic organs, asking ourselves, are there any places that I feel like I've shut myself off or siphoned the energy? Now, I talk about this in the chakra video, and again, I'll encourage you to watch that one after this one. But the front part of our bodies, where we house the energetic organs or the chakras, is the giving out, the extrovertive, okay, the masculine part of that chakra system. The back part of our body is the receiving side. So we give out that energy and we receive that energy from the back. And oftentimes, people that have been hurt in certain areas of their energetic organs, again, I'm going to use the heart chakra because this is the most common that I see, say they've been hurt with their understanding of love. And so they may block off the back, like, I don't want to receive it. Or maybe they had a betrayal and they felt like they were stabbed in the back, or something surprised them and came out them that way. They may shut down in the back of that organ, an aspect of it. So they're not getting fed enough energy in the receiving mode. Now, oftentimes when this happens, we can invert our chakras, all right? And so we don't realize it. We think we're giving out love in the front, but essentially our valve has kind of inverted in, and so everything we're giving out is really only to receive. It's in the energy, the baseline frequency is actually, I'm only giving that to you because I want something back in return. It's an inverted energy, okay? And so it feeds like a loop. A lot of like narcissistic energy or manipulative energy, essentially it's energy that has been manipulated and is not in its original form. So it's not pure in terms of its giving, all right? Now we do this all the time. People do this all the time. It can get, a little valve can get inverted like that. I see it a lot with people who they may do things overly because what they're really wanting is that in return. So they may say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Really, they're wanting, the core energy frequency is that they're just needing to hear that someone loves them. Okay, this would be a perfect example of that, of an inverted heart chakra. So giving out almost in an extensive way and overexerting and stretching the front of the heart chakra because the back is inverted and siphoned off. Okay, so what you're giving out is actually just what you're trying to receive. So there's not a purity in the giving, all right? Now these things are subtle, meaning they're not always, easy to identify. But if you feel into the energy of it, a lot of times then you can notice it. Even when someone is asking you or doing something for you, there's this sense, if you tune into it energetically, if you're feeling the core of that frequency or that vibration, there is a sense of pull to it. It's not just giving out. There's a pull. There's a need coming from that energy as well. Okay, this is the inverse that I'm talking about. Another thing that I commonly see with chakras are what I call pebbles, because I see them in my clairvoyance like little tiny black rocks, where these are resentments, these are bitterness, anger, things that we hold in and contract and solidify. And they're usually smaller events, not major trauma, but things people said, things people did, instances, moments that just hit us, and instead of loosening and letting them go, our bodies contract, those energetic spaces contract tight, and we create this almost like a kidney stone, similar to that. But it's not just in the kidney. It solidifies, and we create this little coarse pebble or sediment in our chakra area. And so when that wheel is trying to spin, just like a rudder or a propeller, it gets these pebbles stuck in it and it cannot spin to its full fluidity. All right, it doesn't have a sense of, it's staggered in its movement, or it's sputtering. It's like tick, 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 tick. And when this happens, sometimes these can, in a literal sense, if they're there for a long time, become cystic or kind of grow in muscle tissue around that energetic area. So in that case, a lot of times, again, this can be in the front, in the giving side of the chakra, or the back. Now, these are energetic organs, but if they sit too long in energetic form, because everything is energy, because it is materialized, it can eventually materialize. All right, so it's important to identify it when it's just in energy form, right? When we're holding it there. Another thing that I commonly see with chakras is neglect. And this to me looks like they're shriveled up, like a raisin, a grape in the sun. They shrivel, and they're not getting enough energy. They're not getting fed. They're malnourished. And these energy centers, when I see them, they just kind of look decrepit. Like, a lot of times this comes from also experiences that we've had where we say, I never want to have that experience again. I'm just going to completely shut off to that energy. I'm going to completely shut off to any sort of flow to that part of my body. I'm going to shut off and separate it out. When we do this, when we section off or separate, we stop the energetic flow. Okay, we essentially put up a dam and stop the energetic flow and circulation of life force energy. And so those chakras begin to shrivel and get malnourished, and they're not breathed in as well. Okay, again, from the back or from the front. Maybe you feel like you just haven't had any interest whatsoever in spiritual phenomenon, the crown chakra, right on the top of our head. And there's this sense of shriveling here, like I'm just shutting off to it. I asked God for something once, he didn't give me what I wanted, and I'm just going to shut down, and it starts to shrivel. And years of malnourishing that aspect of yourself, it begins to get smaller. Now, it doesn't mean that you cannot heal these. You can very quickly. You can work on it. But these are just common ways that I see working with chakras, and I see them in my own clairvoyance. Sometimes people can feel this, but this is a very real aspect of our integration of body, mind, and spirit. So I guess before I go, the one final thing I want to say about this, when you asked about the inverse, is that you can work on opening that up. You can work on clearing those little pebbles or sediment, or feeding those areas of the energetic body. One way that I would recommend doing that is having a regular practice. If you meditate, I'll give you a short exercise to do it, but move into a time of meditation where you're sitting on the floor so your root is connected with the earth as closely as possible, right? And as you're sitting there, I would start with the root chakra, and essentially I would ignite energy there. So begin the energy flow, paying attention to the tailbone where the root chakra is located. And as you're paying attention to it, you're essentially sending energy flow there, okay? And then I would do a big exhalation with the intention of clearing any sediment, any debris, okay? Anything blocking, and you can even say that internally. Anything blocking me, any debris, anything holding me back that is dense or coarse or not in alignment with my highest flow of energy that's in the root chakra, leave through this breath now. And then exhale it all the way out. As you exhale it out, your inhale is clean and restorative, and then you spin it. So then you activate that energy. So you do one breath of clearing, one breath of restoring, and then you begin to spin it, and you can visually see it spinning, okay? Like a firework, right? If you've ever seen those fireworks that spin, I don't even know the name of them, or a pinwheel, right? That you would hold and blow into it, and it would begin to spin. So see the chakras spinning, gaining momentum, gaining momentum, gaining momentum because of that sense of freedom and air. And validate it, like feel the sensation in the body that feels free and open and moving. Okay, then move up to the next chakra in your sacral, between your pelvis, and do the same thing. Set the intention to clear any debris. Do a long exhalation to push anything out. You may need to do a few if you feel like there's a tenseness or a coarseness there. And if you've been dealing with some issues that feel like they're targeting a certain chakra, you can do a few stronger breaths there. When you're breathing too, remember you can target where that breath is coming out of. Even though it's coming out of your mouth, you can have a target spot. Like, for instance, if you want to work on the back of your chakras, the receiving mode, I want to receive a sense of security. I want to receive a sense of foundational energy and trust. Okay, these are the root issues of energy. Then you can focus on the back of the tailbone, and even as you are exhaling out here from the mouth, all of your intentional energy is expressing the release from the back side of your body and the back side of the tailbone. So you're targeting where you want the release from, okay? So there's a physical component to it, and then there's the spiritual and the metaphysical component to what you're asking your body to align with. And then you just go through each chakra like that, clearing the debris, restorative breath, and then spinning that pinwheel or spinning the chakra and getting it active, okay? Literally, once you get used to this, you can do this really, really quick. It can take like a couple minutes, or you can do it, before you start the day. You can just have a sense of clearing and activating those chakras, okay? Another way you can do it is feeding that particular chakra. If you know that you're working on a certain chakra, feeding it in an equal energy. So creating a circuit that feels almost like a rubber band from the bottom of your tailbone all the way up to the crown and all the way down. And then as you're breathing, just creating a feeding circuit. So feeding yourself up with the inhale, feeding yourself down with the exhale. Feeding, creating a circuit. You can do a figure 8 with this as well if you want to move it through the heart chakra and kind of have your core there. And just creating a feeding circuit with yourself. Once you've had that sense of clarity, you can sustain the clearing with the feeding exercises. There's a lot out there, you guys, with clearing your chakras, keeping them active, keeping them working. So I don't think that you'll ever run out of resources there, but my encouragement to you is just to keep doing what you're doing. All right, blessings. I'll be back here next week.